and welcome to the Shared Value Leadership Summit Day 2. I'm Kathy Lynch, Director of Global Partnerships for the Shared Value Initiative. So I need all of your help with something this morning, because Justin gave us a challenge yesterday. So when I say good morning, I need you to prove that we can be as energetic, even more energetic than day 1. So good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you. So first, a few logistical announcements. Just a reminder about the Slido app. This is a great way to get your questions in front of our speakers. And you should know that we do even take the unanswered questions and share them with our speakers after the summit. So they have a chance to answer your questions, and we post them on sharedvalue.org. We do have a schedule change for the day that I want to bring to everyone's attention. When you leave the morning plenary, you should pick up one of these at the registration desk or outside. All of the content for our afternoon is the same, but we've moved up our timing. Please take note, as we don't want you to miss any of our wonderful afternoon sessions. Our big change is a compressed lunch. As we transition back from the innovation labs, you'll be able to grab a bento box and join us in this ballroom for the afternoon plenaries. Please be back at 1:30 for the start of the plenaries. We want to make sure that you get the best seating for our big finish this afternoon. Okay. Our day will end at 3:20 with our reception, so you'll have plenty of time for networking at the end. I also wanted to thank our sponsors again for their support of this year's summit, with a special thank you to Abbott and Barclays for their sponsorship of our breaks today, and to Arauco for their sponsorship of our afternoon reception. It's truly my pleasure to kick off day 2, and if yesterday was any indication, we're in for some wonderful insights, good conversation, and true inspiration today. I thought I would just share a few of the words and phrases that left an impact on me from yesterday. We thought about strength and fragility, clarity, and the missionary zeal of the entrepreneur. The power of profit. We reflected on the fact that we've been debilitated by the myth that helping society is a cost. We spoke about the power of science and the opportunity for impact. That it's incumbent upon each one of us to take metrics into our own hands. And as we head into our sessions today, I encourage you all to be an impatient optimist. And, in the words of our friend Maria Christina, to think about, to think about what's your power, as we all take the leap, as Michael asked us to do yesterday morning. So now it's my pleasure to welcome 2 of our partners to kick off today's summit with their thoughts and reflections on the summit, on shared value, and on their own work. As I welcome Kathy Pickus, Divisional Vice President, Sustainability for Abbott, to join me on stage, I invite you to watch this brief video highlighting Abbott's dairy supply chain initiative.
Saida and her husband Pai Sahab are 2 of the 17 million farmers in India who rely on milk production for income and to sustain their family. Unfortunately, without proper infrastructure, education, and access to markets, it was difficult to produce enough high-quality milk to support themselves. Abbott partnered with Prabhat Dairy and Technoserve to create a sustainable model that ensures the consistent supply of high-quality milk. Now, farmers have more income to invest in their families and communities, while Abbott has clean milk for our nutrition products.
यापूर्वी डेअरीचा प्रोजेक्ट आमच्याकडे यायच्या आधी माझ्याकडे 3 गाय होत्या आणि दुधाचं कलेक्शन खूप कमी होतं. जेव्हा अबटचा आणि प्रभात डेअरीचा हा नवीन प्रोजेक्ट डेअरीचा आमच्या गावात आला, त्यानंतर मी गाई वाढवत नाही. जिथे माझं कलेक्शन 3 ते 4 लिटर असायचं तर मला पर डे कमीत कमी 40 ते 50 रुपये मिळायचे. आता मला पर डे कमीत कमी 1600 ते 1800 रुपये मिळतात. त्यामुळे मला ह्या प्रोजेक्टचा सगळ्यात जास्त फायदा झाला आणि मी माझ्या परीने
Through extensive training and with the creation of 10 new bulk milk chilling centers, more than 1,500 farmers and counting have benefited from this program. One key to success, focusing on women, Because they do the bulk of the dairy farm work, it was crucial they received the same training as men. After 1 year, farmers in the program doubled their income and milk production while meeting Abbott's quality standards, all without increasing costs.
ह्या ट्रेनिंग झाल्यानंतर आम्हाला कळायला लागलं गायांमध्ये कसे म्हणजे काय त्यांच्यामध्ये आपण बदल करायला पाहिजे, दुधाच्या क्वालिटीमध्ये कसा चेंज करायला पाहिजे. आमचा भविष्याचा प्लॅन असा आहे की आम्हाला जवळजवळ 20 ते 30 गाया घ्यायच्या आहेत अजून आणि मोठा फार्म करायचा आहे आमचा आणि दुधाचा पण प्रोजेक्ट आम्ही वाढवायचा विचार करतोय. 200 ते 300 लिटर दूध आम्ही पर डेला घालू हा आमचा विचार आहे दुधाचा.
Thank you, Kathy and Justin, for this great invitation to be here. I'm Kathy Pickus, and I oversee sustainability at Abbott. And I'm reminded of Michael Porter's words from that legendary article that he and Mark Kramer wrote, when he said that when businesses are acting like businesses and not as charities, they can have a far greater impact on social problems. And when I think about the transformation that has taken with those women who have gone from the shadows of the global economy to becoming trusted suppliers to a multinational company, it's a significant impact. And so in the next 3 minutes, I want to share a little bit about how we got there, where our shared value initiatives are headed, and give a little bit of feedback on yesterday's sessions. And I promise not to turn these 3 minutes into 30. But there's a backstory to this. And if you're like me, advocating internally for shared value, you know that it's not easy. But oftentimes, your break comes when a business challenge presents itself. And so a few short years ago, John Janaskal, the head of our global nutrition supply chain, came to us. And he said, look, we have got to source the ingredients for our products to be sold in India from India. He knew that it was cost prohibitive to import milk. It would make the price of our products non-competitive, and plus we had Prime Minister Modi advocating for made in India for India, and we wanted to respect and be a part of that mission. So there are business imperatives that drove that. But as you can see, they were really struggling with the quantity and quality of milk. And he turned to us and he said, look, we need to figure out a way to increase the volume of usable milk so that our business can be successful. And what our team brought to the equation were a number of things. We had strategic partnerships with NGOs. We had capital that we could use to invest in the training of those farmers, as well as the bulk milk chillers that you saw. And we had access to a really great team at FSG. And what we were able to do in the course of a very short year was to solve a business problem. We through that training with TechnoServe, working upstream from our value chain, engaging in where we saw risks to our business, we were able to strengthen those strategies that the farmers had to ensure that we were flushing aflatoxin out of the value chain, making sure that they had access to training in terms of how to store fodder. And they really needed infrastructure. So monies that we typically would spend in philanthropy were directed towards capital expenditures like bulk milk chillers for the business. And it transformed it. We were able to supply enough milk for the business to be able to make the products they needed. We were able to help them meet their costs for how to run that operation. So we're not stopping there. We've got great news on this program that will really address the demand for scale, which we hope to share with you in the next couple of weeks. But there are also other initiatives that are underway at Abbott that really hit at our shared value strategy. In recent weeks, you may have heard about new developments in the fight against malaria. With the support from the Gates Foundation, PATH, and FIND, our rapid diagnostics team developed a new ultra-sensitive rapid test that can identify malaria in people with no symptoms. This is an important advancement in preventing the transmission of the disease. Through another partnership with the government of Rwanda, we're developing a new model for how to manage diagnostics labs. Through IT investments, management systems, and infrastructure investments, we're really partnering to strengthen the infrastructure of the government of Rwanda's health systems. And one of the first initiatives that this will tackle will be a goal to eradicate hepatitis C in that country. There are an estimated 480,000 cases. In addition, we're starting to be innovative in terms of how we're using technology to deliver blood supplies. Drones are currently being used to make sure that the blood supply is being supported with delivery to rural hospitals at the rate of some 60%. But these are just a few of the initiatives, and we're here to tell you that this takes time, and it takes perseverance, and it takes patience. But to conclude, I want to say that regardless of where you sit within your organization, never underestimate your ability to drive change through shared value. If you hold the trusted relationships with the business, with external stakeholders like NGOs, who, like yourselves, are looking and acting and thinking differently in terms of how to solve challenges in society through business, stay the course. It's possible, and change will come. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kathy. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Gary Cohen, Executive Vice President for Global Health with BD.
Good morning, everyone. And I first want to thank both Kathys for both being named Kathy, because it made it so easy for me to remember both of your names. Some of you may have seen me speak before because we have a long history of BD, a shared value creation. It's been a major source of our organic growth over the past 30 years. And in fact, in 1997, working with Jim Collins, the author of Built to Last, we characterized a statement that we called our Envisioned Future, which was that we sought to become the organization most known for ending unnecessary suffering and death from disease, and in so doing become one of the best performing companies in the world. That was 1997. It was clearly a shared value statement. We've had a methodology for doing this that's been applied to many different initiatives. Starting in 1988, we started to work on improving safety among health workers who could contract disease from a sharp object like a needle. We were the world's largest producer of needles. After being used on a patient, HIV and hepatitis could be transmitted that way. That ended up becoming the largest source of organic growth in the company over the last 30 years, and it was clearly a shared value initiative. We supply over $3.5 billion worth of those devices today. We also applied it to strengthening laboratories throughout sub-Saharan Africa to do the testing necessary for rollout of antiretroviral treatment for people living with HIV. We applied it when we were entering China and India using techniques that we developed on cross-sector collaboration, and China ended up becoming the single largest source of growth for the company earlier in this decade. It's actually now the second largest country in the world for us. And many of those partnerships were with the central government and the Ministry of Health. We're applying it to trying to address and save the lives of mothers and vulnerable newborns in developing countries associated with challenges during childbirth. And today I'm spending most of my time on trying to combat antimicrobial resistance, or superbugs, resistance to antibiotics, which is in fact one of the greatest threats to the health and well-being of the world population. And we're using very similar methods, and the basis of those methods is cluster development and cross-sector collaboration. Cluster development was a term I didn't really understand, even though we were practicing it. It struck me as being very academic, but it means working to create the environment for success, which implies a lot of interaction with external stakeholders. These methods in shared value creation were actually incubated and developed through our philanthropic and CSR work, because that's where we learned how to collaborate across sectors towards common goals. And we were able to transition those into commercial business models. So I'll come back to this theme in a moment, but let's not think that the methodology, the skills that we use in philanthropy and CSR are not highly relevant to shared value creation, because they are. People who come up through those functions are more likely to possess these skills than people who are coming up purely through operational business functions. And it's the integration of those sets of skills that creates the opportunity for shared value creation, and also the basis to establish trusting relationships with governments, non-government organizations, foundations, and civil society. So I can't explain how we did all this in 5 minutes, but there's a wonderful Harvard case study on BD shared value creation and global health that was published last August, which you can easily access. I was asked to make some comments on the content yesterday, and I have to say it was a very impressive day. I agree completely with Professor Porter that engagement of investors and investment funds is a key turning point. And I love the comment, the quote from BlackRock, that without a sense of purpose, no company, either public or private, can achieve its full potential. We can say the same thing about people working in business organizations, that a sense of purpose enables us to achieve our full human potential personally and also on behalf of our companies, because it strengthens motivation and it also strengthens engagement within a workforce. There was a comment made on the need to advance business school curriculum. That's something I've taken some personal responsibility for. Last month, it was announced that I'm co-founding the Rutgers Institute of Corporate Social Innovation with the Rutgers Business School. I'm doing that in part because not everyone can get into Harvard. And Rutgers has one of the most highly rated MBA programs among public universities. Actually has the highest job placement rate of any MBA program as well. So I'm happy to share information on that. That starts in the fall of this year, and it incorporates CSV, CSR, philanthropy, positive social impact into a formal curriculum in the university. I think everyone here who may work in more social impact functions than, let's say, line business functions, whether it's CSR, public affairs, philanthropy, can certainly play a vital role in shared value creation. I agree it needs to become embedded in the corporations of a company and in the business models, but the stimulus can come from people who understand partnership and collaboration. In fact, it's my experience that small groups of overworked people who have the audacity to take on big challenges and problems, those are the people who change the world. Whether it's small groups of people within a company, they could be intrapreneurs, they could be entrepreneurs, they might be NGOs. I've worked also, I founded a nonprofit in 2009 that's now operating in 24 countries to address sexual violence against girls. The principles for how to do that were coming out of the same type of work I have done within BD, and it is changing the world, and it's a small group of overworked people who are doing it. There's one thing I disagreed with Professor Porter on yesterday, and one thing good about working with professors is you can disagree with them because you're encouraged to debate. It doesn't always work the same way in a company, but with professors you can do that. And he said that shared value is not about doing good. And I think it's absolutely about doing good. He said we shouldn't be ashamed of saying we're doing this to earn a profit, and he's right about that, because profit enables it to go to scale. Similarly, we should not be ashamed of saying we're pursuing shared value creation to do good in the world. Our motives need to be aligned with the intended outcome. In my experience, when motives are not aligned with the outcome, it derails at some point. And if our motive is to accomplish good in society, that actually should be something we're proud of speaking about because it's walking the talk. In my view, doing good is a pathway to advancing the long-term success of a company, because solving social problems creates societal value, which can be then translated into business value. And in fact, some of the world's greatest companies were created by solving societal problems. Think about General Electric and what happened in the early years. Thomas Edison, the problems he was solving, that led to the creation of GE. It's actually not a complicated concept. It's common sense. And doing good is also a pathway for personal fulfillment. My sense is everyone that's here is here in part because you're seeking to accomplish good. It's part of your professional life, perhaps your personal life as well. And I submit it's what you'll remember most when you look back on your career. Even more than your career success, you'll remember the good you did and the relationships you formed as a result of that career. So last thing I want to say is creating shared value is not something, in my view, that will advance like a bullet train. It's not going to be a curve that goes up like this. It's more like a freight train with a big engine fueled by renewable energy. The progress is going to be measured in years, not in days or weeks or months. But like a freight train, it's an unstoppable force. You don't want to get in the way of a freight train because you're not going to slow it down, you're not going to stop it. It's going to keep driving forward. And I think it's a force that will drive success in business, and it's clearly also a force for good. Thank you.